yeah, it's late, but I just got an itch for fan fiction. I remembered one of the best things that came out of Kawata Shoujo was really the community forums that were created afterwards, especially the fan fiction that was created both by the fans and the actual writers from the story about the other possible like canon couples or even routes you could have pursued in the game. And this was one of the first ones I actually picked up to read.
I just got the best.
Wow. Ah, I hate it when stuff pops up on surprise. So annoying, so frustrating. But yeah, Summer's Clover was probably the first or second fanfiction story that I found after completing the game and just wanting to consume more of the lore and the different characters that were conceptualized but never fully developed into the game. Because again, already making, what was it, Shizune? I can't remember Pink Hair Drill's name. Oh my gosh. Apparently I remember Shizune. I remember Hanako. I remember... I can't remember Twin Tail Piggy Ears. Oh my gosh. And... yeah, wow. I actually don't really remember all their names. I remember their faces. That's bad, me. I can't remember your freaking names. Let me just go back because there's Rin, obviously. What is it? La la la. I know it skipped over to here, but since I have an absolute brain fart, Emmy. Twin Tails. There we go. Emmy, Hanako, Lily, Rin, Shizune. Obviously, that was the one I remembered. Misha. I was thinking Mitsuki. I don't know why. But yeah, obviously, if you don't know what this game is, there's this official site. There's multiple different languages you can read it from. It's got a download page if you ever want to play the game or get... bleh. Quickly scroll away from that. Because did not realize there is some tasteful art down there, so be wary. You want to find out like the reason this game was ever created. Oh no, is the image just broken? But I mean, if you can zoom in. I'm sure I can zoom in on this. Come on. I know I can do that. Hey. Good job. That's as close as I'm gonna get. Am I actually gonna do it? Blech, 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 blech. Yeah, the about page. You have all your little characters. Anyways, back to this. Because we're dealing with the fan fiction side. Is from the Lily writer, Hanako's co-writer and producer, Suriko? And yeah, this was what finished and made around 2014. And this is dealing with this character, Miki. And essentially, they had this old scenario planned and she had it drafted, but it's in script form, so it does read a bit odd for some people's reading styles. But again, to each their own. Let's see. This is not an add-on, it's not an expansion, it's no way official, but it's just text. Let's see. And it's not about canon, so don't whine about it. And again, this game's how old now? But figured I'd read it, do something with my time. So this is a download. So if you do want to read it, and it does come with a song, you can play with it, which I'm going to use to now. Let's see. I don't have anything else playing, right? No. So I can start that. But this is Carefree Days. Sebastian Scoff. And it's a good one. So this is just going to repeat in the background. And based from the table of contents, there's 3 different documents, 3 different folders. Don't reload. Where part 1 is the common path, which makes sense given game-wise. Then the Suzu branch, part 2, and part 2 as well is Sao branch, because again, there's a lot of different jumping back and forth on the narration. And I believe either can be read at either time. Just obviously common path first. I'm going to start there, which we're going to have 9 documents for the common path. So let me just find out where that file is. Common 00. Prologue. I've always believed there are many kind of people. Those who calmly stroll through their uneventful lives. The ones who meander from this interest to another. They who walk in the shadow of others more notable than themselves. And so on. As for me, I was the type who ran. The people I wanted to be with, what I wanted to do with my life, where I wanted to be. I knew the answers to all those questions. I had my worries and concerns, of course, but those meant nothing when living with such purpose. My ambition is what set me free. For those fleeting years of my childhood, I was unstoppable. 3 years ago, that world ended. Common 01, the runner. The rattle of a can hitting the vending machine rings out across the empty school grounds. The orange of sunset settling over the campus. Everyone's retreating to their dormitories, fun homes for an early start to their studying and varying hobbies. Without much else to do, I wander through the gardens while drinking to make the best of the unusually quiet surroundings. Summer's biting particularly hard this year. At least, that's what everybody's been complaining about lately. I don't really see the problem, but I've always been more used to hot weather than others. With little around me to think about, beyond the occasional sip from the can, my mind turns to something that's been bugging me. Every day feels the same. The school week begins. I attend classes. School week ends. Lays around for the weekend. And then it all repeats once more. Stagnant. It's probably the best word for it. It's not that I hate such a life compared to how I've lived before now. It's something I feel I should probably cherish. But my life is also finite. No matter how blissfully unaware I am of it, time still passes. Maybe it's the summer holidays that focus my thinking, or maybe the exams beforehand. Either way, this way of living will end. Emerging through the line of trees separating the track from the main grounds, the movement of a lone person immediately catches my eye. His figure casts a lone shadow in the evening light as he slowly runs along the far side of the track, looking like it's hard going, with his arms swaying to and fro as he valiantly pushes himself onwards. I idle up to the side of the track and take another swig. It's a welcome distraction from my troubling thoughts. As he comes around the corner, it's possible to finally get a good look at him. I'd recognize those disheveled locks of Hasal's anywhere. While his natural habitat may be the classroom, I've seen him sputtering around the track alongside Emmy a couple of times before. Dressed as always in his shirt without that bothersome jacket. Absolutely had to cough, so sorry about that. Didn't want to blast your ears with that. Anyways, as he comes around the corner, it's possible to finally get a good look at him. I'd recognize those disheveled locks of Hasal's anywhere. While his natural habitat may be the classroom, I've seen him sputtering around the track alongside Emmy a couple of times before. Dressed as always in his shirt without that bothersome jacket. It's clear that he has a nice build. That said, despite his solid chest and broad shoulders, there's a unassuming air to him. Perhaps it's due to his rather plain face, or just his subdued nature from having recently changed schools. Without anything in particular to say to the boy, I just take another sip of my drink as he continues up the track. Maybe the normal thing to do here would be to cheer him on for throwing himself at the track with such gusto. But it really doesn't look like he's enjoying the ordeal. His running form is becoming worse and worse, and his speed is noticeably slowing. Even the birds that swoop down to peck at something left in the grass doesn't bother moving as he runs past. It reminds me of how I used to throw myself at the track, running however many laps I could before it broke down from exhaustion. I move to take another swig from my can as he comes back around, only to find it lacking. My attention briefly diverted from Hasal to my sadly empty drink. I'm taken mildly off guard as he stumbles off the track and comes to a hazardous stop just ahead of me. Can I help you? Not knowing if he's even able to hear him past his panting, I let him collect himself for a few seconds before answering. Just watching. Yeah, I can see that. He clutches at his knees and tries his best to regulate his breathing, but it's in vain. It's when he clutches at his chest and his breathing noticeably rises in pitch that I start to get a bit worried. You okay? Looks like you're kinda overdid it there. Yeah, I'm, I'm fine. Totally fine. He's going to be like that. All that I can do is take a step back and let him recuperate. Beyond his breathing and a slight breeze in the trees, there's nothing to be heard. It reminds me just how alone we are. Like being the only two people in the entire school grounds right now. After who knows how much time, he finally manages to compose himself and stand upright, sweat still trickling down from the side of his face. There's a sickly wheeze to his breathing, but I don't think he wants to be reminded of it. Miria, right? I'm Hisao Naki, the mysterious transfer student himself. Pleased to meet ya. What brings you out here anyway? Just grabbing a drink. You? Missed my morning run, and Ibarazaki said I should run it in the evening to make up for it. Don't worry. I know Emmy. Damn near all the school does. I nod towards the track. The bird's still out there, still trying to drag a leftover food packet away. Just how long have you been out here? A while. I should probably just cut my losses and get dinner. She would kill me if I skipped out. Man, just give up. Come to think of it, this might be a good chance. Dinner alone is boring, and if I can twist him into paying for a meal, all the better. If you're hungry, I know a good place if you're up for it. He looks a little startled by the suggestion, running a hand through his hair as he tries to settles himself down and think things through. Can practically see the gears turning in his head as he selects his choice. He looks a little startled by the suggestion, running a hand through his hair as he tries to settle himself down and think things through. I can practically see the gears turning in his head as he selects his choice. Come on, the hot girl's asking you to eat with her. You gonna refuse that? They say modesty is a virtue. Never said I was a virtuous person. May as well waiting things out as he continues with his deliberation, as I'm pretty confident I know the answer will be. Sure enough, he finally comes up with an answer. Fine, I'll go with ya. And a time skip ahead to the restaurant of their choosing. The Shanghai location within the nearby town has always been convenient. I had thought that even this might be too much for Hisao given his exhaustion, but he managed to drag himself here just fine. I like the uniforms they have here, even if they do strike me a little unconventional. Our meals are placed before us. The waitress takes her leave to attend to a handful of other customers at the other side of the cafe. Not being especially hungry, my meal's just a slice of pie and a drink. Hisao's pack of lunches don't look like it'll last for long, one of them already having disappeared into his mouth. Catches me staring, awkwardly holding the next midair while looking mildly embarrassed. Sorry, it's normal to be hungry after exercise, man. Go ahead, stuff your face. as Sal obediently does so, though with a touch more delicacy than before. So, what's the story of Emmy, anyways? She just pushed me to exercise with her sometimes. Guess she enjoys the company. I mean, like you do now. Doesn't seem like you enjoy the experience much. Well, I do want to get back into shape, as much as I can anyways. Pulls the cup up his arm a little, taking a loose flap of skin from his forearm and giving it a pinch as he frowns. Sure is pale under his shirt, though. I'm not the best judge of that. You sure found the right person if you just want to get whipped into shape. Just make sure she doesn't kill you first. Believe me, she's come close. His tone is way too serious for a throwaway joke. Surely she's not that much of a slave driver. Taking a bite into my own food, it turns out I'm surprisingly hungry myself. The two of us end up stuffing down our food in no time, crumbles littering the table in the aftermath. With dinner finished, Hasao leans back in his seat and contentedly pats his stomach. I run a finger around the inside of my mouth to work out the remnants stuck to my teeth, savoring the taste of the last little bits I managed to find. At first, I take Hasao staring out the window to be a sign of boredom, but one careless glance gives his game away. He's trying to distract himself from the bandaged stump resting on the table. I'd hardly think worse of someone for looking at it. Being distracted by something out of the ordinary is completely normal. I just give a smile, hoping to make him relax a bit. Sorry. Believe me, you're not the first one to notice. It's not like missing a hand is exactly subtle. Hoping and succeeding to diffuse the situation a bit, I grin and waggle my stump in the air a little to emphasize the point. It's delightfully easy to read Hasao's emotions, even when he's trying his best to suppress them. I still have no idea what to make of this place. Town or Yamaku? He just raises an eyebrow. What's the problem with it? I think confronting would be probably the best word. It's not every day you see someone with half their face heavily scarred or having to try and communicate with someone who can't hear. And there's the obvious example of Emmy. You're not wrong. Being a transfer student would make that a lot worse too. Try coming at that from another angle though. What are we doing now? Chatting at a cafe? And what did you do today before that? Woke up, got dressed, went to classes, had lunch and tea in a club room, more classes, went to the run on the track and started chatting with you. Isn't that a pretty normal high school day? He moves to protest, but finds himself searching for words. However reluctantly he may be, he backs down once he realizes that I have a point. He'll get used to it soon enough. Everyone at school seems cool with it. It's only because we all had a head start of years. And if I accidentally offend someone, I almost did just then, remember? Then so what? Just find someone else to talk to. There's hundreds of people to pick from. Hell, you're talking to me pretty easy. Pretty normal high school, huh? Exactly. Just pick up some friends, find your groove, and ride the rest of the year out. You'll be fine. He turns to look out the window, reflecting on the conversation. expression of contemplation suits him well. Evidently, coming back to the conclusion, he gives a nod before turning back to me. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. The smile he gives me is kind of sweet. Weak, but terribly sincere. All I can do in response is give a satisfied grin back. Such a chance meeting might have not changed much for me, but I can help Hisao get back on the right track. At least I'll have something been useful to someone. Weather really is nice today. Common 2. Sing along. I find myself lazily sitting at the base of a particular tree in the school gardens, making the most of its shade while watching the goings on ahead. The events over and medals dispensed, the people gathered for the track meet have now fanned out over the grounds, runners excitedly talking with their friends and parents, with the handful who had romantic interests, and the other particular school using this opportunity to catch up on a more affectionate matters. It's nice. In fact, I prefer this environment to the competitive nature of the track meet itself. People just catching up with others, having a nice time as the importance of who won or lost whichever race fades away. Without much else to do, I idly toy with the medal on my chest. First place was a lost cause. Emmy's in another league when it comes to sprinting. After all, silver still ain't bad, especially given that I'm hardly the competitive type to begin with. Wonder what metal this thing is actually made of. Tin, maybe. I flick it a couple times to try and gauge sound, but it's no use. Shadow across my vision grabbed my attention, but I didn't need to have bothered looking. The owner just keeps on walking towards the main building, her empty sleeves swaying in the breeze. Looking back to where she came from, I see a familiar face scrolling slowly around the grounds. Given that he isn't in gym uniform, he's probably only there because of Emmy. I feel a little bad for him. Sure, he's around the student council and Emmy a lot. That feels more like he's being bossed around than actually choosing to hang out with friends. Not that I'm innocent, I guess. Thought of something some of the guys in the club had hastily arranged comes to mind as I mull over the situation. Come to my feet after making my decision, striding past a gaggle of gossiping girls, and call out to him. Oh, hey, Muriel. Hey. Got dragged here by the shorty, eh? Sal just hangs his head as I saunter up to him. He's pretty transparent. It's always struck me how out of place Sal seems around the track club and other sporting stuff. He said he liked soccer when he introduced himself in class, but it's kind of hard to imagine such a passive and subdued lad running around a field and being boisterous. It makes me wonder what he's doing with himself if men and me weren't dragging him around by the scruff of the neck. At least she put on a show for you. Has she always been that good at sprinting? Yep, she puts in the hours on the track, so it ain't surprising that it pays off. Fastest thing that on no legs. And all that. So, it looks like you did just fine yourself. Something. You hang out around the club and look decently built. I'm surprised you didn't run some race or other. You saw me the other day on the track, didn't you? The face he pulls makes me bad for bringing it up. This being Yamako, it isn't hard to think up reasons why he might have had problems in that area. Get asked, there's another reason I wanted to talk with you actually. Most of the track club's going to karaoke place this evening to hang out. There's space for you if you want to come. Sal looks genuinely startled, but I think it's in a good way. I was gonna study. Come on, it'll be fun. Some of the other guys want to know who you really are too, you know? I somehow doubt I'm interesting. Mysterious transfer student who keeps hanging around the track. Star Emmy? What's there not to be curious about? He wavers a little, but eventually throws his arms up in surrender. All right, you got me. I'll come. Enter a time skip. The moment we all entered the dimly lit room, we started to act as if we were home. People laid on the couches, draped themselves over the arms and backs to talk to friends, threw snacks and drink bottles to each other, generally made a din from all the arguing over the day's event. Now that some time passed with the excitement and adrenaline of the track meeting ebbing, things had finally settled down a little. Dozens of people around make do with gossiping while lounging around on the garnish-colored seats. Occasionally cheer or jeer at whoever's up, front belting out some crappy song or another, and busily chanting the night away. Not that I'm excluded, with Isao seated to my right and speaking up to be heard over the audacious number being sung to a chorus of laughs and teasing. If you don't mind me asking, where are the girls from the club? I'm sure I saw a couple besides Emmy at the track meet, but only the guys are here. What, you looking to pick up? I just transferred in. I don't move that quickly. Come on, you could do worse than the girls in the track club. Fitness does wonders for you-know-what, after all. He gives me a flat face, but I detect a hint of embarrassment in it. Guess he's a bit of a prude. They're just busy, supposedly. Maybe it was all too much of a sausage fest for them. He moves to say something, but as the guy singing ends his round, the next beckons for Isao to join him as he walks up to the mic. Yukiko Hazakan? Nothing less than perhaps the most popular guy in track club. He's always cut gracefully for a man, bearing slim, refined eyes, impeccably groomed hair, and a gentle face. Far from my type, but other girls seem to gush over him. The others in the room, whether out of curiosity, friendliness, or teasing, quickly joined in to try and make Hasao perform. The guy himself doesn't look enthused, but I suspect as much due to the pressure as the actual event. You should do it. What have you got to lose? My dignity? I can't sing, you know. What, you think any of us can? Stop being lame, just have some fun. I put my hand on his back and give him a sharp push off his ass, jolting him up into the center of the room. It's only momentary, but as he recovers, he throws an odd glance back to me afterwards. His anxious, almost scared face leaves me speechless. Everything returns to normality in a flash. The boy taking a breath before marching around the table and up to the mic with back hunched and feet dragging, waving down the cheers of those around him as he does. Whatever was just going on in his head, it was far beyond just being shy. nobody else seemingly noticing, all I can do is sit back, puzzled in my seat, and take a swig from the soft drink from in front of me. As the music starts up and the vocals kick in, it becomes obvious that the two are far from practiced in this. Their voices might not be bad, but they're horrendously outkeyed. Sal's shyness is getting the better of him too, which only looks worse next to Yukiko's confident demeanor. From the corner of my eye, I notice the guy to my left leaning forward, his face turning to mine. Name Haruki, though everyone calls him Haru. It's a fellow classmate who also had the misfortune of being stuck on the first row of tables. While he may be quite gifted physically, being decently tall and strong, he's far from the sharpest tool in the shed. It matters little, though, as in his endearing, cheerful nature and eternal optimism cover for whatever shortcomings he may have. So, what's the over-under on the new guy? I set the drink back on the table, my hand rubbing my neck as I lean back. I don't know what answer he's expecting, but I doubt I'll be able to give him any. You're asking me? You're the one who invited him, you know? He paid for my lunch, so I felt like I owed him. That's all there is to it. Just the corner of his mouth tugs upwards. Just a little. You're being honorable. There's a first. Prick. So, do you know anything about him? All I know is he's a nerd who gets bossed around by the shorty in the student council. Heard he used to play soccer. Not half bad at it either. Used to. Something wrong with that? Haru glances to the two at the front of the room, both of them being far too distracted with their attempts to make something reasonable of a decent song to pay us much heed. Satisfied that we're communicating in private, he jabs at his chest with his thumb a couple times. He had a heart attack. Real bad, too. Emmy probably knows more, or the guy himself. He adds the latest suggestion as a afterthought, though understandably so. Lenny and Yamaku have their secrets, their skeletons about what happened to them in their past. So I'd be damn hypocritical to complain about it. Come on, a heart attack at that age? It happens. I expect him to admit that what he heard was some vague rumor or something, but he just shrugs and looks at me matter-of-factly. What would Hisao be? 17? 18? That's the kind of thing you hear taking out frail old people, natural causes and all that. That I think about, maybe that explains why he got puffed so easily back when I saw him on the track. Shit. Kind of pathetic, but that's all the response I can muster as I lean back in my seat. Haru just lets out a dissatisfied sigh, equally put off by the idea. Looking back at the duo finishing up their song at the front, I can't help but see him in a new light. Common 03. A girl named Suzu. If I had to choose which room embodied the feeling of the school the most, it'd have to be the library. Looks normal at a glance. Large, sure. But
otherwise normal. It's only when you realize the odd little allowances for the students. Audiobooks, braille books, wider passages, and the like. And there's the cane or two propped up against the desk of reading students. There's also the old-fashioned stuffiness, too. Doesn't help that the literature club students are all quiet as mice. But then it's something more than that. Furniture, the staff, and the general mustiness of the older books are all stifling. My eyes eventually fall on the girl across the table from me. Unremarkable, perhaps be the best description of how she appears, save for the bags under her eyes, brace on her knee. Yamaku, that's doing pretty well. If I had to choose which pose embodied the personality of Suzu the most, it would probably have to be her chin resting on her hand as her eyes lazily scan the manga magazine in front of her. The girl looks up, her eyes meeting my own. Her reaction, or lack thereof, is about what I expect. Staring is rude. I don't know how you put up with this place. Do you have anything more exciting to do with yourself? She sighs as I start to rock back and forth from my chair to occupy myself. No one else willing to brave the heat. The track club's been largely abandoned for the day. I can think of better things to do than throw myself around a empty track. Then again, the literature club sure makes a dull sight. Closest thing I could see to an actual club activity is half a dozen students sitting around a table, quietly discussing some book or another. Why don't you join them? Following my nod, she glances to her side and back with a minimum effort, not even bothering to lift her head from their hand. Because I'm busy reading this. Isn't the literature club discussing literature? Most of us just read whatever. As long as we're quiet and in the library, nobody really cares. So that's all you're gonna do? Read manga? I was sincerely hoping she would suggest something for us to do, or even maybe socialize, but she simply shrugs and goes back to reading. It's hard to say whether it was out of apathy or being too tired to do much more than this. Then again, I'd be more surprised if I could gauge her feelings. The kind of way of that you could describe her would be ambivalent, but after a year of being with her, I've settled on a diagnosis of a possible lobotomy. The air of quiet disapproval never seems to leave her. As she slowly turns the page and continues her reading, a familiar voice draws my attention to the end of the library. The tense voice of Exawa hunches over on a beanbag in her usual little corner. It isn't difficult to distinguish Masao sitting on the floor beside her, a disarming smile on his face as he softly tries to chat. Can't quite pick up on their conversation, but the fact that they're having one at all is pretty impressive. Suzu turns back around as I stop my gawking, and her own interests apparently have been piqued. She seems to like him. Yeah, they get on well. I may say that, but I have my misgivings. There's more than one story of when girls have tried to get close to her, only for things to go bad for all involved. How much of that is actually true or just gossip, I have no idea. But plainly obvious she has a lot of baggage. Might be rather hypocritical, but it might be rather hypocritical, but I don't have much to get involved with that. Way I am, it could only have gone badly. Though Sal comes to his feet as the conversation apparently ends. Returning from their sanctuary at the end of the library, he walks by us, a couple of novels held into his side. Pick ones. I give a short whistle and motion for him to come over. Odd to see you here. Well, aren't you quick on the uptake? Come on, take a seat. I need someone for company who still has some life left in them. Sal obediently does so, taking a seat and plopping his books down in front of him. Yeah, my cough is getting bad, but this was a good attempt. At least I got to 3. I could always pick this up when my throat is not as scratchy. Because besides this story, I know... What else? Clearly there's Aura's story. I mean, quite literally, there's the entire form. I don't know if that's significant. Clearly this one's pretty significant. Saki, Itsu, Shizune, there's some Misha. Oh, an unusual friendship. Interesting. A epilogue. Saki. A question, pursuit or route. Let's see. Isn't there another one? The Pseudo Suzu route. That is the other one. And if you're confused, Suzu is a girl from Hisao's class who briefly appeared in Act 1 and is mentioned in this Summer Clover story. And essentially, she suffers from narcolepsy, chronic sleep disorder. And let's see, well, can't really find it, but essentially this is the main Scratz who drew this, but essentially the blue hair. She was in the pose where she's kind of like, it almost looks like she's falling asleep at her table, and theorized that she has narcolepsy, and they created a whole arc. But essentially, what is it? A new player arrives at Yamaku, interrupting a game already in progress. And that there's the Act 1, the common route, this post, which has Who Loves Me. Then there is Act 2, which is in several parts. Act 3, with Path A and Path B, where a difference in divergence. Act 4, with a Path B and Path C. And it looks like it ends there. there's miscellaneous stories, so maybe like subplots that are in there, or like little OVA type stories. So definitely check it out because there's a lot of good fan fiction from here, especially they've been here a while, so pick it up. It's a pretty easy read. Might as well. But this was entertaining, so I'll give it another go.